some of you got copies of this Forever Solidarity, which was a tour that took place over a year ago of some of the major public sector union leaders in Canada. And I just wanted to say that in this document, in some of the pictures, I could give you one from one of the Aboriginal leaders that met with us, whose husband was murdered after this. They tried. He was shot by the army. Very clearly, they admitted it. It was a mistake. And she shot up her vehicle, which the government had given her for her own personal protection. She's a very well-known leader. But she wasn't in the car. It was her husband. He was picking her up at the airport. She was coming back to the United Nations. He was murdered. And the daughter, the little girl here, was in another separate episode, almost got abducted. He was saved by some neighbors. I could flip through this. There are people we met with who are dead, who were murdered very, very clearly, either by security forces or by paramilitary. This is all open information. It's in here. This does not talk about that, because when this was put out, those people were alive.
I'm just conscious of time, so I recognize that we have a couple of other hands being raised and probably some comments from the table here, so maybe we'll take 2 more questions. It's almost 9 o'clock. Okay?
Hi.
Raise your hands again, please.
What?
You go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'm just beginning to learn about this issue. It's taken me a couple of years to wrap my head around the NAFTA agreement, and I still don't actually understand it. What I'd like to do is ask a contrary question, if that's okay. Given our deepening interest in Afghanistan and our growing trade with China, why should we not trade with Colombia, even given all the problems with human rights and narcotics trade?
That's a very good question, not a contrary question at all. And in fact, the proponents of the trade agreement will often say, well, are you proposing cutting off all trade with Colombia?
That's what I mean by contrary.
Yeah. The issue is whether or not the trade agreement makes things worse for human rights in Colombia. All indications from the many reports are that it is quite likely to make things worse. That's why a free trade agreement that enhances investor rights and does not compel the Colombian government to do anything to improve the human rights situation is such a negative message to send, particularly when they are waiting to get the Canadian deal done so they can try and force through deals in other areas where people have shied away from the human rights violations and are saying, no, we're not going to give this privileged trading relationship to a government that has such an egregious human rights record. And that's really the issue here. We're giving a privileged trading relationship to a government that desperately wants it, so they can show it to the rest of the world. And it's a government that clearly, given the increasing human rights violations, torture, killings, disappearances, false positives, we can go on and on. By doing that, we're giving a rubber stamp to a regime that has clearly failed.
What about the other part of the question?
Sorry?
What about the other parts of the question?
Trading with China?
China, Afghanistan.
Well, if we're talking about a trade agreement as opposed to trade generally, those are two different categories.
Okay.
Trade generally is different from putting that into a code of law. And in this case, the Colombia trade agreement codifies things that I believe firmly will make the situation profoundly worse. If you were asking me, should we sign a free trade deal and send the same criteria with China, I think I would be raising the same concerns, and many other people would be as well.
Okay. I think that my question was misinterpreted, so I just want to clarify. I was wondering, the Colombian that was invited here tonight by us, why he didn't like our government to come here tonight and expose these things. And I was curious as to who invited the lady up here from Colombia here tonight, because to me it seems as if someone's trying to stop the truth from coming out, and that's what I was curious about. I wasn't trying to say that the Colombian was going to come here and lie to us tonight. Right. Okay, so sorry for that. I was not articulating myself properly, but
something about the statistics that are quoted, that there is less cruelty and violence happening in Colombia. I had just finished researching a project or a paper on this topic, and the Sahara mine that provides 41% of Nova Scotia's power, Nova Scotia Power's coal. In 2001, they evicted 700 residents from a town called Tobacco forcibly. There were state officials as well as private mine officials, and they bulldozed the town to the ground to expand the mine. There was a lot of international criticism about this, so they sort of changed their tactics, and they decided to have a less hands-on approach to get rid of other sort of impeding villages that have been there for generations. What they did is they bought the land around the villages and restricted the villagers from using that land, which basically starved them out. They can't fish, they can't hunt, they can't graze their cattle or sheep or goats or what have you. So I just wanted to bring up the sort of evolution of cruelty and the way that tactics have changed in a way to seem less violent and less abusive, but it's just a different form of abuse that can go under the radar more easily.
I just want to, thanks for that, and point out that there is a book that you can get at the local bookstore here, Lots of Delights, by Gary Leach and Terry Gibbs, called The Failure of Global Capitalism from Cape Breton to Colombia and Beyond, and it documents exactly what you're saying, and it's well worth having a look at.
And his other book,
Beyond Bogota.
Beyond Bogota's Tremendous, which he has right there.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm just going to turn the mic over to Mark Rogers from the PSAC to make a quick comment about tomorrow.
Yes, thank you for that, Angela. Just very quickly, the comment was raised, is it better to meet with Scott and discuss this, debate it, or is it better to go to the rally? My comment to that is that we invited Scott here tonight. We said you are welcome. We would appreciate that. He chose not to, and that is his right, so we have no issues with that. So then we decided, well, we're going to go to his headquarters, and we will have a discussion there. What he would like to do is to have us squirreled away in room 204 of the Beverage Arts Center. So that's exactly, and I love that phrase. So I would encourage everybody. I have contacted the RCMP Wolfville. I've told them that we're coming. I've told them it'll be peaceful. I've told them that there will be control there. But the big thing I want to mention is that there will be media there tomorrow, and we need to get media attention on this, and we need to show that the voices of Nova Scotians, the voices of King's Hands, oppose this deal, and they're not going to be heard if they're in room 204 of the Beverage Arts Center. Thank you.
Just before everyone leaves, then thank you so much for the wonderful discussion this evening. It was excellent questions from the audience and very informative presentations from our panelists. And so happy to organize this event because I've been, concerned, and perhaps others have as well, that the negative impacts of this potential agreement are not getting the type of coverage that we need to have done, which is the point of why we organized the event this evening. So thanks so much for coming out. I hope to see you all tomorrow. Especially thanks to everyone who has traveled quite a distance to be here. We have people from Tatamagouche area, all the way from Ontario, from British Columbia.